Rich teen spit on a waitress. He didn't know 10. Hell's Angels were watching. She'd been awake since 5:47 a.m. The kind of awake that lives behind the eyes after too many months of not enough. And still she smiled. But on this cold Montana morning, when a Silver Spoon kid spat in a waitress's face, 10 men in leather set their coffee cups down and quietly decided the world would turn a different way. Before we begin, subscribe to Voices of Darkness, where true courage lives in ordinary people. If dignity matters to you, like this video, share it with a friend and tell us where you're watching from. If you love the Biker Brotherhood and the Hells Angels mythos, share this story now and help us hit our first 1,000 subscribers. Prove your love, protectors of Table 9. The alarm never had to earn its keep in Jenny Martinez's apartment. At 5:47, the black square on her thrift store nightstand glowed its numbers at the darkness, and Jenny's eyes were already open. Listening to the house breathe, listening to her son's room for the small cough that had haunted the last 3 nights. She slid a hand across the quilt, found her phone, checked the time again as if the phone might deliver a miracle if asked twice. Her body negotiated with the cold. Coffee first, then breath. She patted across the kitchen floor, pulled the tin of grounds, and shook it. Enough. Enough was a word Jenny had learned to measure with teaspoons. Michael's fever had come on like weather, unexpected, inevitable, indifferent to her schedule. The pediatrician had written a prescription. The pharmacy had written a price. Jenny had nodded, thanked them, and done the arithmetic later at the kitchen table where the light was a little crueler. Rent, 5 days late. Car, check engine light blinking like a metronome of judgment. Pay, yesterday's tips short by just a little, which is to say, by everything. She ironed the uniform shirt, not because anyone at Rosie's diner was keeping score, but because ironed shirts can feel like answers when there aren't any. She wrote a note for Michael. Oatmeal in the fridge. Heat for 40 seconds, text if you need me. I love you to the moon, and said it where he'd see it first, outside. The kind of autumn that bites soft and then harder. Jenny watched her breath bloom in the half-light and promised the blue hatchback a prayer. It coughed, then agreed to the day. Rosie smelled like coffee, bacon, and 11 years of Jenny. She tied her apron, checked the coffee filters, counted sugar packets, reset napkin tents, spun salt shakers so their holes all faced north. A private superstition that had turned into a ritual after a bad year, when a ritual was the only thing that didn't change. At 6:30, Tom Henderson sat down where he always did, on the corner stool by the pie case. "Morning, Tom," she said. "Morning, Jen." The usual. She poured before he asked. He lifted the cup in a little salute, and the day began. At 7:15, thunder rolled without clouds. 10 motorcycles slid into the lot with a discipline that made strangers think danger and old-timers think church. Chrome flashed across the windows. Heads turned. Forks paused, then resumed. The Devil's Advocates MC, patches in red and silver, road dust like a second language on their boots. Men with hands nicked by work and wedding bands dulled by years. They had their table like people have a pew. Table 9 under a photo of Rosie herself, shaking hands with a governor who came once and never again. Marcus Hammer Stone led them in. 58, beard-salted, eyes that could do 2 hard things at once. Look warm and remember everything. His vest was worn at the edges. His voice rarely was. "Morning, Jenny," he said. "You're early this year," she answered, filling 10 cups without looking. Doc Black. "Tommy, extra cream." Marcus watched her while the others joked, their laughter a low river. He could read the tiny tremor in her left hand. He had watched his mother work a griddle for 15 years with hands like that. He knew the look of somebody threading a needle through a day that might not hold. There was a rule the Devil's Advocates had never written down because it lived better in the blood. Watch how a person treats the person serving them. It tells you everything. They didn't go looking for trouble. They just didn't walk past it. At 7:45, the BMW arrived like a sentence that doesn't believe in verbs. It took 2 spaces because rules felt like something meant for, and Marcus could hear his mother's voice here. People without options. The door cracked, and out slid 17 years of purchased confidence. Braden Whitmore, hair precision cut, shoes whispering money. A phone already in hand like it was part of his body, and maybe the best part. He didn't see the "seat yourself" sign. He didn't see anything but his own reflection in his screen. He took a booth by the window and let the morning light crown him. Jenny walked over with a menu and a safe smile she'd learned to mean on bad days. "Morning, honey. Coffee to start. Is it drinkable?" he said without looking up. "Or that burnt diner stuff your kind calls coffee?" There are words that bruise when they hit. Your kind is one of them. Jenny swallowed and relied on muscle memory. "It's fresh," she said. 20 minutes ago. Whatever. Black." The coffee met the cup with care. "I'll give you a minute with the menu." He nodded to the phone. "I'll tell you what to bring." At table 9, Tommy's jaw worked like he was chewing something that wasn't food. "Hold," Marcus said. His voice could pick up a room and set it back down without spilling anything. He wanted egg whites and whole wheat toast and fruit that had never seen the inside of a can. He wanted them in sentences that sounded like orders in a courtroom. Jenny wrote it all and smiled like a door held steady against weather. In 12 minutes, the plate landed with perfect form. He poked. "Runny. They're scrambled egg whites like you—" I didn't say scrambled. Folded. Like an omelet with no yolks. "Do I need to draw you pictures?" He lifted the toast like a judge exhibits evidence. "This is barely warm. Toast means toasted. Dry toast means, do you know how to do your job?" The couple at the next booth pretended to be somewhere else. Jenny collected the plate with steady hands, though her heartbeat was a moving truck backing up inside her chest. "I'll fix it," she said, the kitchen remade perfection. 15 minutes later it returned. He performed disgust with a flair for theater. Voices in the diner softened. The room took a breath. "Garbage," he said. "Absolute garbage. Are you even hearing me?" "Sir, we—" "Don't call me sir." He stood. He had athlete's posture and a lawyer for a father. He knew how to become a tower and make someone into shade. Jenny knew she needed the rent. She knew her kid needed a fever to break. She knew that men with fathers like Braden's could make phone calls that were weather too. The third plate arrived. He took one dramatic bite, then another kind of aim. He spit in her face. Time stopped. Jenny felt it on her cheek, a line of contempt sliding down like the calendar of every day she'd swallowed instead of speaking. Her hand rose for the apron, stopped. She would not wipe with her work. She took a napkin. She dabbed. She did not cry. Frank, the owner, came out, saw a senator's son and a nightmare. His fingers hovered near the phone like touching it would cost money. At table 9, 10 coffee cups touched porcelain in a rhythm that meant enough. Marcus stood. His chair legs scraped a small sermon into the floor. He didn't storm. He walked, boots on linoleum, the sound of a man who had nothing to prove and everything to uphold. "You're going to apologize to the lady," he said. Braden laughed. "And you're going to sit down before I call the police." Marcus's hand stayed open. To the lady, 9 more chairs whispered their yes. The advocates stood as one line of not moving. Braden raised the phone like a talisman. "My father is Senator Whitmore." "You don't know who you're talking to." "Son," Marcus said, "you don't either." The diner had 4 kinds of silence. The morning one, the prayer one, the grief one, and now this. The kind before someone does something that lives forever. Jenny wiped her cheek again, the napkin shaking more than her hand. In the chrome of the pie case, she caught her reflection. Human, tired, not invisible. "Apologize," Marcus said again, softer now, as if the word itself could make a bridge. Braden's mouth pulled to a sneer, then to something like uncertainty, then to the old sneer again. "Fine, I'm sorry." "No," Marcus said. "Not to me." Braden turned to Jenny. "I'm sorry," he said, part sigh, part hiss, as if the apology itself tasted like losing. "That's words," Marcus replied. "Now you're going to learn." He pulled a chair and slid it out with his foot. "Sit, my son." Senator Whitmore had arrived in a rush of cologne and expensive panic. His tie cut straight lines through the room. "This part's not for you, Senator," Marcus said without turning. "Take a seat." The senator counted the patches. He counted an election in his head. He sat. "You want to know why this is church to me?" Marcus asked, eyes on Braden. "My mother worked a truck stop off I-40. Graveyard shift. Came home with her feet swollen. Men called her sweetie and dear and sometimes worse. She smiled anyway. Not because she liked it. Because we had to eat." He paused. "The room did too. I learned 2 things. 1, people who serve are the spine of this country. 2, the dangerous ones are the people who think they're allowed to forget that." He let the words sit beside the coffee mugs. "So you'll work a full shift. You'll do what Jenny does. You'll feel what this feels like. And then you'll apologize again with what you learned in your hands, not just your mouth. The senator inhaled to object. I'll do it, Braden said, like someone else was driving his voice. He looked at Jenny, and for the first time saw her eyes. He held there a second too long and then looked away. Good, Marcus said. Be here at 6. Wear shoes you can forgive. 3 mornings later, the BMW took up one space neatly. Braden walked in wearing borrowed non-slips and a look he'd never had to try on, ready to be told. Jenny trained him because she didn't know how not to help. Balance the plates on your forearm like this. Eyes sweep the room. Look for hands half raised and cups that need small mercies. Write orders in the same order the table speaks so you can remember who's who. Breathe when someone snaps. Breathe again. Ask their names if they give you one. If they don't, still treat them like they have one. By 7:10, he wore coffee. By 8:00, he learned the geometry of navigating a toddler's swinging legs and a trucker's elbow. By 9:30, he met a woman who'd lost her wedding ring weight and didn't yet know what else she'd lose. A man in a camouflage cap said, "Sweetheart." I said over easy, and the word sweetheart landed like gum on a shoe. I'll fix it, Braden said. At 10:15, he wrote down the wrong side. Heard the hiss, typed a text to no one, erased it. The ache in his arches bloomed into a new climate. At 11:30, he watched Jenny carry 4 plates with a 5th balanced on her fingertips like a prayer. He watched her say, "Take your time," to a woman crying gently over toast and bills and nobody knowing which was which. He watched her count a cash drawer that hated her and yet somehow left her enough breath to ask Tom Henderson if his granddaughter got the role in the school play. He thought of the way he'd said "you're kind," and he wondered, without letting the thought complete, itself what kind he wanted to be. The advocates came in just after 7, as they always did when the road decided to put them there. They didn't stare at Braden. That would have been too easy on him. They simply ordered and then let him learn. Doc, black, Marcus said, eyes friendly but not letting him off. Braden poured, overshot, apologized, wiped. It's all right, Doc said. 2 napkins, 1 lesson. At 8:45, a rancher wanted his eggs like his father liked his eggs, and maybe the world like his father liked it too. No tomatoes. A man knows his own plate, he declared, and when Braden returned with the plate correct down to the stubbornness, the rancher said nothing. He ate. Sometimes silence is approval. Sometimes it's just the absence of complaint. Both can be a victory. By noon, Braden discovered a truth service people inherit. The clock is a rumor. Time is the distance between one demand and the next. At 2, Jenny slid a water across the break table toward him. Don't forget to drink, she said, as if he were one of her own. He nodded, throat too tired to carry words. He'd spent his life examining price tags to determine value. Today he learned to weigh things with different scales. The quiet thank you from a man in a Union jacket whose hands had their own weather system. The look from a woman who had to bring 2 kids into a diner because rent lived in the hours she wasn't with them. The small miracle of someone seeing you, even briefly, and deciding to be gentle. He thought of his father's voice. Win, or make it look like you did. He wasn't sure where this new feeling lived, but it didn't sound like winning. It sounded like becoming. News travels in small towns the way rain does, across roofs and under doors. By evening, the story had become a handful of versions. In some, the biker punched the senator's son through a window. In others, the waitress swung a coffee pot like a mace. What actually happened was quieter, which is why it mattered more. A college kid in a corner booth had filmed the moment Braden spit. He never posted it. The advocates asked him not to. We're not here to ruin, Marcus said. We're here to repair. Instead, someone else posted a different story. A thread about a single mom, a sick kid, and 10 men who remembered their mothers. The town read it. The town recognized Rosie's from a sugar caddy and a tattoo in the corner of the frame. The town started talking. The next morning, a jar appeared by the register, handwritten sign, Michael's Medicine. By lunch, the jar needed a second jar. By the following day, the Devil's Advocates started a fund online. They asked for enough to breathe. The town sent enough to exhale. Rent got paid. The check engine light saw a mechanic and lost its religion. The pediatrician called with good news. The fever broke. The nights would stop being so long. Jenny showed up for work anyway. Home is not just where you go, it's where you're useful. A week later, after his third full shift, Braden asked if he could speak. The diner's late afternoon lull held the kind of quiet where words could land and stay put. I said I was sorry, he began, eyes on the table, and I thought that counted. I didn't know the difference between sorry that ends a scene and sorry that starts a change. He looked at Jenny. I'm sorry for what I did. You deserved better from me, from everyone like me, Jenny considered him. She wasn't interested in performances. She watched for weight. Then she nodded. You did the work, she said. Keep doing it. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for 17 years. How about bussing table 4? She added, because dignity and chores are cousins. He smiled a little. Yes, ma'am. Marcus, 2 stools away, didn't clap. Respect isn't loud. He met the senator's gaze instead. Something passed between them that looked a lot like truth. You can love your child with all your power and still hurt him by removing consequence. The senator approached Jenny later. Hat in hand he wasn't wearing. Thank you, he said, for giving my boy something I kept buying out of his reach. Jenny flicked her towel across the counter and answered with a line that would live in town lore. All I gave him was a list and a shift. The rest he took. Change came the way weather should, gradually, with a forecast and then a sky that kept its promise. Braden clocked in twice a week and learned everybody's nicknames before their orders. He stopped telling stories. That made him the hero, and started listening for the ones where he wasn't needed at all. He volunteered at the food bank, because bags are heavy when you're alone, and lighter when someone else says, I got it. He applied to a different school without a building named for his father. He lost friends he never really had and found ones who didn't care what shoes cost. He failed publicly, often. He got an order wrong and took the anger without armor. He learned the genius of a sincere, that one's on me. Marcus watched him come out the other side like metal drawn across a whetstone, something dull getting sharper. The advocates rode through town again in spring. Rosie's put up a brass plaque above table 9 without asking, reserved for the Devil's Advocates, MC, protectors of dignity. The men grumbled about fuss, but touched the plaque anyway. Too much, Tommy said. Maybe just enough. Doc answered, voice soft as his coffee was strong. 2 months later, a man in a suit came in at 1:40 p.m., late enough to be irritated by other people's schedules. He didn't read the menu so much as assume it. Ordered with the confidence of someone used to yes, and when the short order cook made a human mistake, he aimed his voice at Jenny. Do you even know what you're doing? Braden was 3 booths away. The old reflex, heat shooting to his face like he needed to prove something, rose like a bad habit. He set the glasses he was carrying on the counter, walked over and discovered his tone had learned new manners. Sir, he said, that one's my fault. I'll fix it. The man rolled his eyes in a big circle for the room to see. Then fix it faster. Braden didn't spit. He didn't slam. He bussed the plate and returned with the right one, and then, after the man ate 3 bites, set a small slip of paper on the table. No charge, he said. We didn't meet the mark. The man harumphed. That's a word people like him still do. When he left, he didn't say thank you. That wasn't the point. The point was the room had watched, and in the watching, decided things about the boy in the borrowed shoes that would stick longer than rumor. Jenny found him by the dishwasher. Sleeves wet, hair messier now that he earned it. Good, she said. Now mop, he laughed for real. Yes, ma'am. From table 9, Marcus lifted his cup like a benediction offered without prayer or priest. The senator's re-election didn't end in fire. It ended the way truth often does, at margins where people change their minds by inches. He won, barely, and learned to dial different numbers. A pediatric ward to ask what it needed. A women's shelter to ask what it's owed. A son's phone to ask how a day went and then to listen to the answer. He stopped threatening small businesses. He started tipping in cash, folded small like a secret between grown men who both know how hard months are made. Once, when nobody thought to take a photo, he shook Marcus's hand in the parking lot by the yellow lines that some cars still ignored. I should have done what you did years ago, he said. Made him do the work. Marcus shrugged. We all learn when we can afford it, he replied. Some of us have to take loans we don't like. The diner breathed differently. Dawn still came on like a soft argument between night and morning. The pie case still reflected faces that looked worried and then less so after coffee. Tom Henderson still told Jenny the high school's production of Oklahoma surprised him, and now he understood why people sing at each other if the music's good enough. There was a framed photo behind the register. Jenny and Michael. The day after the fever broke, both holding plastic spoons from the ice cream shop, because sometimes victory looks like sprinkles. Taped to the frame was a note in a kid's handwriting. To the people who helped, thank you. I'm going to be a nurse. He'd spelled nurse with 2 S's. Rosie left it that way. The tip jar had a new sign. If you can, give. If you can't, take a peppermint. The dish never went empty. Neither did the jar. Out by the highway, spring threw green against the brown like a dare. The motorcycles sounded like weather again, but now the town heard them differently. Table 9 was full. The coffee was the same. So were the men. Tell me about your mother, Marcus said to a young rider new to their circle. She raised us alone, the kid said. Worked nights. Taught me how to make rice cheap and good. Then you tip like you're paying debt, Marcus replied, and the kid nodded like church. There is a version of this story where the video goes viral and lives in the bloodstream of scandal for a week before something shinier replaces it. That's not this version. This version is smaller and exactly therefore bigger. It lives in the way Brayden holds a door now. It lives in the way Jenny sleeps through her alarm once a month because she can afford to. It lives in the way the senator calls his sisters more often. It lives in the plaque, and the jar, and the peppermint dish half full because Grace is sometimes a mint left behind. It lives when a rancher uses ma'am like a thank you instead of a leash. It lives when a tired line cook puts an extra pancake on a plate a kid didn't expect. It lives when the devil's advocates pull over for a stranded minivan an hour east and offer tools and jokes and the dignity of not explaining why. It lives because 10 men decided their coffee could wait, and because a woman decided to show up anyway. If you believe in protecting dignity, subscribe to Voices of Darkness right now. Like this video, share it with a friend, and comment, I'll be the Marcus. We tell stories of silent warriors, forgotten heroes, and justice done right. If you love the Hells Angels legend and real biker brotherhood, share this story today and help us crush our first 1,000 subscribers. Prove your love, prove your heart, be the voice, be the spine, be the storm that protects the quiet ones.